If you love scary movies, but get sick of seeing the ones that don't have any storyline, I have to recommend The Babadook. Not only is it full of jump scares and eerie moments that will have you shouting out at the screen, it has a very strong plot line that hasn't been done before. The story follows a mother and child after the death of her husband. Together they discover and read the story of the Babadook, a creature which feeds on attention. The problem is, it can't be ignored. Simply pretending it isn't there won't work, because even thinking it gets powered up. It's hardly the story she was expecting to read to her child, and she certainly wishes that she hadn't done it. It is not long before the monster comes to life, in her son's imagination at least. He starts to have terrible nightmares and begins to see the horrific creature everywhere. Like most movies, it isn't long before his mother is at her wits' end trying to persuade him that there is no monster under the bed or creature in the cupboard. She tries everything that she can to help him, and then to help herself when the Babadook starts appearing to her. Whether it's new pages of art appearing in the book or creatures' clothing hanging in the police station, the Babadook wants her to know it isn't going anywhere. No matter what she tries, those typical horror movie fixes like burning the book aren't going to work here. And that's because of what the Babadook actually is. But we'll come to that. First, it's time to discuss the next big problem in the story. People start to believe she is the mad one. She starts to act erratic, controlling, and violent, which is understandable when we know what she's seeing. Unfortunately, nobody beyond her and her frightened child do. School, friends, family, and neighbors start to suspect that something is very wrong. Sadly, the conclusion they jump to is that last one of the family want to hear. They say it is her and it's all in her head, and worse than that, they blame her for creating the book and causing her son's delusions. Again, she does what she can, even going to the police station herself, and Mr. Babadook does not like that. In fact, he's there right behind the officer on the desk. What is she supposed to do? It seems that nobody will believe her. Even those who have a duty to look into it are now out of her reach. Before we get into any spoilers, let's take a look at what the critics are saying about this movie. 78% of Google users like this film. And considering that the internet is where everyone can be faceless critics, that's a very good review for the public, and it's hard to disagree. This is a phenomenal film. Coming in at slightly less, IMDb rates it as a 6.8 out of 10, which we feel is a little unfair. But then again, it's missing the big fear element which some people need. As far as I'm concerned, though, it is tasteful, done in a way that feels so much more real. If you prefer creepy over too many cheap jumps, you'll definitely be giving it a higher rating. Finally, we have infamously hard to please Rotten Tomatoes, which gave Babadook an audience score of 72% and a whopping 98% on the tomato meter. Right? Let's get into the final details of the Babadook, the movie, and the best. So given what we have already heard, you might be wondering, so how do we get rid of the Babadook and his cursed book? The answer is both complex and simple. Let's start with the simple side you don't know. It is impossible to get rid of the Babadook. After all, it's in a thought and it's in a look. You can't get rid of the Babadook. However, it can be weakened. This is because of what the Babadook is. The Babadook was not created for this movie. It is in fact a mythological being who does turn up and torment anyone who mistakenly reads his book, even part of it. The Babadook is the embodiment of grief, anxiety, and depression, which sounds simply but is actually a complex philosophical journey portrayed in this film. The Babadook appears during her grief at the loss of her husband, which is why those in her new circle can't see it even when it's traveling right among them. The Babadook is both created by and powered up by the family feelings. The more they struggle, the more desperate the situation becomes as they are tangled tighter and tighter with the pain of their own monsters. And it gets even more clever when you realize that we were told this all along. Her friends tell her it's just grief. And that's exactly what it is. We were just as frustrated and deceived as the main character, furious at them for not believing. As it turns out, the rational answer was the right one. Only when she faces her feelings does the Babadook diminish. A lesson for us all. The Babadook will never go away, as represented by its presence at the end, but it can be managed when accepted and understood. The Babadook is a beautiful and poetic philosophical lesson captured in the end reel of the movie, and the pages of a book you really shouldn't read, or should you? If I had to give this movie an overall rating, the movie Babadook, I would give it a 8.5. Let me know in the comments if you dare to read or watch this Babadook movie. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.